we have the amazingly talented Darren and Jonas here, both master trainers for Maxon.
Hi there.
Hi there. And I remembered I didn't introduce myself yesterday. Probably doesn't matter, but I'm Simon Walker. I'm the Director of Training for Maxon. And we together club together with ideas and resources to come run these sessions for you. So as we mentioned yesterday, please get back in contact, training@maxon.net, if you've got any suggestions for future sessions, as you did have yesterday all through the session. So thank you for that. So very quickly, a few bits of housekeeping. Yes, we're recording this. And here's the page, rather, we're showing now is the content of what we're covering. So if you wouldn't mind just scrolling slightly upwards, Jonas, then we can see what we're going to cover in this session, or what Darren's going to cover in this session, rather.
Hopefully.
Yes, here we go. So working more in Bridge and Mixer. And Darren's got some amazing tips, and we got some nice follow-up links as well that we'll be sharing. And if you want to watch the recording for yesterday, then please head over to our YouTube channel, and that's the Maxon training team on YouTube. So we'll give you the link anyway, but if you don't have it, you can just access it from YouTube. And there is the session from yesterday, and in fact that's got all the various links what we mentioned there in the description.
All right. Gosh, lost track of days. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you for being here with us. So today, I'm going to be showing you Quixel Mixer and how to use it to create all sorts of materials. And I'm going to be totally honest with you right off the bat. This is still something that I am learning and getting accustomed to, unlike Cinema 4D, which I've been using for a very long time. And so pretty much every mix I'm going to be creating today is going to be different from what you've seen so far. I'm going to try to match it up, but like I said, I'm still learning it. It's surprisingly deep. It's very cool. So what I have on my screen right now is Mixer. After you start it up, you're presented with this menu, and you will have the sample mixes from damaged painted concrete down. Now, let's. I'm going to create a totally new mix here. And right off the bat, you can choose a name and a working resolution. I'm going to do 2048 and hit OK. Now we can change this later. By default, you get a plane. You can choose some primitives. The cylinders are just different sizes: cube, rounded, cube, sphere. But the plane is a really good starting point. So yesterday, I showed you how I very, very quickly modeled a very basic round tabletop surface and UV mapped it for Mixer. So I want to bring that in here, and I can do that in the Setup tab here. So under Type, you see Plane. We can change that to a 3D asset, which are those that some of which we saw yesterday in Bridge, or a custom mesh, or this default shader ball. Let me go back to my view here. There's the shader ball, and you can navigate the view in Mixer just like you navigate your view in Cinema 4D. If you are holding on a PC, it's Alt and using the mouse buttons. I'm not sure on a Mac, would that be Option? I'm sure
Yes.
someone knows.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Option.
So like Alt or Option, left click and drag to rotate, Alt or Option, right click and drag to zoom in and out, and then Alt or Option, middle click and drag to pan, just like in Cinema 4D. We can, using this menu, choose our view. So we can go to the top or the front. The menu to the right of that is basically the different HDRs that you can use to preview your material, your mix. And when you're viewing any one of these, let me get a better angle. You can, and I showed you this yesterday in Bridge, you can hold Shift and then right-click and drag to rotate that HDR or the angle. And that is also in the Display tab here next to Setup. We have a light intensity and light rotation. Now, if you want to see that HDR in the background, you can change this to Skybox, and then you can rotate that around. It's a little distracting, so I'm going to stay on gradient. There's a lot of options here for what we're seeing in the view. But more importantly, we have these performance options. So we can set the viewport resolution to half, set target frame rate. I've enabled all of these camera movement performance things. So like when I zoom in or move around, it automatically lowers the resolution, tessellation, turns off anti-aliasing, and so on. So that's all great on my little laptop. But I don't want this model. So I'm gonna go to Setup, and instead of the shader ball, I'm gonna do Custom Mesh. And I'm gonna go to the model that I made yesterday that you guys watched me do, Tabletop Day 1 Live, FBX, and Open. And there we go, it's in there. Now, let's go to the layers. Okay, now every layer in Mixer can be either a solid, which is what this base layer is, and each layer contains all of these PBR channels or textures. So this being a solid, they're all just sort of flat colors. They're not really doing much of anything. So this is relatively unimportant right now, because I want this to be wood. I'm going to jump right in to my bridge library, and I can access that up here in the top left, local library. And here I can see all of my assets in Quixel Bridge that I have locally downloaded. Now I'm going to switch to Surface, so that I see only the materials, the surfaces. And here it's I can see there's 14 wood surfaces, so I can check that, and I can see all those there. So let's start out with this poplar. Or actually, you know what? Let's do this wooden panel. I can see it's 2 by 1 meter, whatever. So I just single click on it, and it adds it as a new layer. So this is like a whole material as a layer on here. Now this material has textures. It's not all procedural, okay? So those textures do need to be UV mapped and projected into that UV space. And there are a couple of options. Now, when you select a layer here to the right, you get the options and additional layers. So if I fold up that blend category, there's the blending of this wooden panel, the placement of it, the height frequency, and then the individual channels that it contains. Now, under blends, this is where we have basically 3 different blending modes. We have like a normal blend, and that is called opacity mask. So you can just sort of turn that down or up. And these other sliders don't really do anything. But we also have from above or from below. We'll get to that later. But for this model, I'm primarily using opacity masked. So this is my base. This is my base material, and I'm for the most part happy with it. But if I move the light around and explore this, I can see that there's a bit with the grain that, like on the side, I don't really want the grain going around when on the top it's coming from front to back. And that's because of how this is being placed or projected. It's using this box projection. Now, this is basically taking all the textures in this wooden panel and it's projecting it like on a box. So it's like putting a box around this object, and then each side of the box is projecting that texture onto that respective side of the model. Now, there is, I did create for an older version of Cinema 4D a tutorial on how to do blended box mapping with standard or physical Cinema 4D textures and materials, and Jonas can paste that Cineversity link. But here it's much more intuitive because it's already implemented here as an option. I don't want it, so I'm going to change this to tiling. So because of how we did the UVs yesterday, the grain is coming around to the sides just like I want it to. There's a bit of pinching, but that is okay. I don't mind it. Now, that's our base layer. It has its own albedo or color, its own metalness, roughness, displacement, and normals can be turned off. The color can be turned off. We can adjust the strength of the normals in this one. All sorts of controls we have here. But the real power here is not messing with these individual channels, but combining them with others. So I'm going to add, I want this to be broken up into like separate boards. And here it just sort of looks like just warped and cracked. So I'm going to add a new layer in here. And I like this wooden beach decking because of its how it has all the separate planks. So I'm going to add that as a layer on top, and I'm going to change its placement from box also to tiling. And now I have different options here. I'm going to set the rotate up to 90, and then under repetitions X, let's go 2. You know what, that's the wrong one. Let's go to repetitions Y, set that to 2. There we go. So I'm getting more planks here. But I'm also getting that color from the albedo. So I could turn off that albedo in that wooden beach decking. So now I'm getting everything else from that material, but underneath it, I'm also getting, I'm mixing it with that underlying wooden panel material. So if we view just the wooden beach decking, we can see that alone is really cool. And then combine it with the wooden panel underneath. And I mean, even here, this is already a very cool material that would be very difficult to do using like noises and shaders in Cinema 4D from scratch. And both of these materials, like everything else in Bridge, is based on that on Quixel's mega scans. It's all scanned surfaces, so it's awesome. All right, now what we want to do is add some unique weathering, and to do that, we want to be able to mask out parts of the materials here or there, and so we can add a mask to like any layer. Now, let's add a shinier, cleaner surface on top here. So let's go to this poplar veneer, and I'm going to drag that to the top of the list and set it to tiling as well. And I can solo this by here in the eye icon, just like in any other program, you can show or hide that one layer. If you alt click on that eye icon, you solo that one layer. Alt click again, and reveals the others. So I'm going to solo that one, and I don't like the color of this, so I'm going to go down here to the albedo, and let's fold that up. So in the albedo, I'm going to click on this little dot. This is the color. And this is one of the cool things about Mixer is that we can very intuitively change the color of these materials. So I want a pretty rich red. It's awfully glossy, which we can change elsewhere. That might be even a little too dark. Okay, let's do that. We'll rotate that light around. Ooh, you know what? Sorry, I want it a little darker. Okay, there we go. Okay, and we'll worry about the roughness and glossiness later. But let's turn on these other layers so we can see how it's all coming together. And man, that's awfully dark. It's taking over everything underneath, which I think looks really good. So I just want a bit of this to come through here and there. So I'm going to, let's say on the edges, okay? So what I'm going to do is add a mask to this. So if I right click on this layer, there's a couple of different types of masks. There's an ID mask, we'll get to that later, a paint mask. So I can select that, and then I get this new panel on the left where I can load a brush, and I can come in here, and way at the bottom is the brush color. So I can set it to white or black in this case. It comes through. But if I make this a little bigger, I can just sort of stamp it down. And because this is a grime map, it actually creates some pretty cool variation and scratches in there. So I'm actually going to undo those that I just did. And I'm going to switch to a top view. Is that top view? There we go. I'm going to switch to the top view, and I'm going to increase the size of this so it's about as large. That's big enough. And I'm going to just sort of click right there. Let's put it in the middle. And add some scratches to the middle. And then I can come back into the perspective and check that out. And so that's a paint mask. Now you can create your own brush. I got to move this little GoToWebinar thing. So let's fold up all these categories real quick. So we have the brush presets. Okay, so we can just select these or create our own. And then underneath it are the settings for that: size, angle, spacing, opacity, and flow. But under brush shape, this is where we can load our own image. So if you have one of the like brush soft, then we get this default control to adjust the shape of this. Now, if we want to load something, we can just click on this here, go to load image, and then we can find a texture that we like, and it'll load it in there. So let's see if I have. Okay, this is going to be ridiculous, but this is you can see what parts are black and what parts are white. I'm going to open that up, and let's come underneath. And yeah, we're not going to get any light there. So I'm just going to come up on top and just stamp that right down. So you can see that black is, transparent. White is going to be painting on in that mask or in that brush. So anyway, once you have a brush you like, you can save it by clicking on this little turning page icon. And then it'll be added to this list. So I actually have a number of brushes already. So let's see, under brush shape, we did that. We have brush jitter, so we can jitter the size, angle, flow. And then we have finally the color. So when you add a paint mask, it comes in as transparent, okay? But if we disable that, let's see, can I add? Nope, only one paint mask per layer here. But let me delete that, and I'm gonna, down here, these little icons, this icon, you can see when I mouse over it, it says add alt for black paint mask. So if I hold the left alt key and click on that, then it automatically creates that same paint mask layer, but it's filled with black, which is great. So now I can just go to, oops, select that layer, change this color to white, and I can put in some fingerprints there. And then I can go back to this soft brush, and setting that to black, I can paint those edges out so it's not quite so noticeable. So it's difficult to see, but there are now some fingerprints there. So I'm going to select a couple of brushes here, and I can zoom out. The brush size doesn't change. So when I zoom out, I can just sort of stamp that on. Let's set this to white and click. Now I got all these little scratches on here, which is basically revealing this poplar veneer layer. Yeah, so now that's the paint mask. I'm going to delete that. I want to show you some of the I want to show you the mask stack. The mask stack allows us to add different effects and layers to this to mask it out. So let me find a good angle here. Some lighting. It's okay. Now, when you select that mask stack, then we have this mask component icon, we have this mask modifier icon, and then we have presets. So I'm going to go to this mask component, and these are like your basic, these are your starting points, okay? So if you wanted to, for example, put something just on the top, then you could say, let's do a normal, normal mask component. And we get this little like widget, there's a little preview of it. We get this widget, we can click and drag and move that around. There's another circle we can drag in. We can set it to above or below, and then we can apply this to the mesh and underlying mix, which includes all of the layers underneath it, or the mesh or normal, current lit, whatever. And we can adjust the ranges of this. And it can be sort of hard to see, but we can actually, over here, choose which layer we're seeing in the view. Not layer, but which channel of this overall mix. So we have albedo, metalness, roughness, normal, displacement. We can preview all these channels, but there's also the layer mask. So I can select layer mask to preview. And so as I adjust this, I can more clearly see that I have what looks like a gradient coming from the side. So let's set this angle to 0, and then the tilt, I'm going to bring that to 0. So now it's coming from above, okay? And then I can adjust the ranges of the black and the white to fine tune where I want, want to reveal this material. So I'll hit 1 to come back to the PBR metalness. All of these are the number keys. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0 goes through all of these layers. Well, most of them anyway. So let's see. Let's come here and let's turn this off and on, and it's awfully subtle. So let's turn off that poplar, okay, and turn it back on. So it's just adding a little bit of depth and richness in there, and it's not tremendously distracting, and that I think is a good thing. Now, in any one of these, we can go to the height frequency in one of these layers outside of the mask stack or paint mask, and in any of these layers, we can adjust the height frequency or the low frequency, and that's essentially the strength of its displacement and normal effect. And then there's a threshold that, I don't know, I just sort of mess with it. And let's see, so I'm gonna bring the beach decking high frequency up and the low down, and on the wooden panel, I can fiddle with that a bit. And there's some awkward things going on in my view. And this, I believe, has to do with just sort of how it's previewing this in this view. I've not seen these artifacts when I actually saved the material. So I got this one material here. I'd like it to come through a little more clearly. So I'm going to add another layer on top of this. So this normal layer basically says it uses the normal maps and the direction within the world, which is why this above and below works like it does. But when we just want something like on the edges, then we want like a curvature. And there is a curvature option here, so we can preview that. So let's see, let me select this normal and hit 0. So 0 is, okay, this is something that confuses me all the time. If you hit 0, then you see active mask, but there's also this layer mask. Well, what's the difference? Well, one of them is both of these. So you see, no matter which one I select, I get the same result in my view. That is layer mask. If we choose active mask, then only that mask layer, which is actively selected, will be displayed. So now I can see just this curvature, and I'm going to change this from default to we have edges only. We can tweak that and get just the edges, and see how it's also recognizing not only the geometry, but also the normal and the bump that all the underlying layers have. That's underlying mix. We can also apply it to just the base normals, the current layer, or just the mesh. I'm going to stick with underlying mix. This is edges only. We also have cavities only. And let's see, tweaking those levels. So I want just the edges. So I don't want cavities. And then we have edges and cavities. So I'm actually going to go to edges only and bring the black and the white of these levels in. And you can actually hold the left shift key and drag these two simultaneously, which is pretty useful. Now, let's turn on anti-aliasing. So that's not bad. Let's preview the full PBR material here. And I'm not really seeing it come through as much as I'd like. So what I'm going to do is set this to add, and I'm going to change my preview here to layer mask so I can see the whole thing. So I can turn this on and off and see how it's affecting it. Now, there are other, there's modifiers we can apply to this mask, like a clamp, brightness, contrast, normalize, gradient remap. So let's see, let's try normalize. Nope, not liking that. Let's do a, let's try clamp and bring the, yeah, that's not what I want either. We'll try gradient remap. It may just be brightness contrast. Shift click. Yeah, let's try brightness contrast. We'll delete that. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is still something that, I'm learning. It's quite deep, and there is, it's like every time I touch something, I'm getting a different result, and that's part of the process of learning it. At least for me anyway. So, I got this brightness contrast, whatever. I think what I need to do is blur this because there's just too much scattered information. So I'm going to add the blur. Bevel is another option to soften the edges, but let's go Gaussian blur and reduce that strength. And then on top of this, let's try that gradient remap to bring the black and the white in. There we go. I like this because I'm getting more localized areas of brightness of white and black. And that is coming through in these edges. It's not as wide as I'd like. So I think what I want to do is, I could just keep adding some more on top of this. So let's see here. This curvature is add. There's the blur gradient remap. I'm going to add another one on top, a curvature, and let's do edges only on the mesh. And let's see if I can get this wider. There we go. There's a tightness. I'm going to leave it. And that's good. So with this on top, let's go to preview the layer mask, not just the active layer. We can change the blending mode on this one and its opacity. Let's see, I'm just going to try a couple of different. Nope. So let's see, max, overlay, nope, too heavy. But maybe I'll turn that off and on. Okay, so let's do add and just turn that down a bit and hit 1. Yeah, so those edges are really hard. It's very unrealistic, right? So we can just add a noise on top. So I'm going to say Perlin, and we can, again, 9 to preview this one layer. And I can fiddle with the settings and get something of interest that's of the right scale or size, and then give it a blending mode that'll work on top of that that curvature layer. So let's see, I want layer mask, and there's the noise off and on. And let's come back to the full PBR minimalist preview, and I'm going to bring that down a bit. And what if I also inverted this? Now that's pretty cool. So as you can see, there's this is a very different result from what I had before. Let me actually show you what I did with the other one that is in the preview. Let's see, it's under lab, cylinder tabletop, December, open, do not save. So it's using the same model, and I'm going to actually go through these separate layers real quick. Okay, well, you know what? Let's show you the whole thing first. So this one is pretty cool. I liked the wear on the edges and the planks and everything. It was a very sort of like, swirly marble-looking grain, which I liked, and this that's disturbing it. So anyway, so let's go through this. So I have that wooden beach decking, and then on top of it, I actually just duplicated that same one and made its albedo darker, and then used a combination of those masking options to just reveal parts of it in like the grain and around the sides. Okay, so I have a cavity, a normal position gradient blur, and so this is so complex it could be saved as a preset, and that's actually what we can take advantage of with these mask stacks. We don't have to rebuild everything all the time. So let me show you real quick. If I add, let's go to this poplar veneer, let's duplicate it, let's right click, I'm deleting that mask stack. So this poplar veneer is on top of everything. I want to add a mask stack, and then rather than building everything up again, I can go to load a preset. So if I go to the ... I click here, we have bricks, grouts, bricks, cavities, cavity grunge, edges, highlights. Let's try grunge gradient. And if we hit 9, we can see what's going on there. This is actually pretty cool. We can set that to come from above. And then if we hit 1, then we can see that on the sides, how it's sort of fading. So that's pretty cool. But let's actually try, let's see, let me get rid of those. That was grunge gradient. I think I want, let's try cavity grunge. Okay, so that's pretty heavy around there. But the thing is, we can adjust all of these components here, right? So if I wanted to come from the top, I'd go to, oh, we have to update this curvature. Come all the way down here. Okay, so there's that curvature, and then we have this on top of it. So you know what, I'm getting in the weeds here, right? But let's come back. I just wanted to point out that there are presets there, so you don't have to rebuild everything all the time. And we don't need that. Okay, so I got that darker layer, or there's the darker layer on top, and this has a painted mask on it. So it's just adding a bit of subtle variation in there. Let's see, let's shift click and try and get the reflection and roughness in there. So you can see without that layer, how the glossiness looks, and then with that layer, it's breaking that up, which is pretty cool. And then on top of that, I have that lighter poplar veneer to just sort of come out through some of the edges and in some of those fine wood grain, like nooks and crannies. On top of all of this is this antique wood smart material, which pretty much like takes over everything. So we can add a mask stack to this with a preset. Let's say cavities, and hit the number 9 so that we can tweak this to get something that we want to use. But let's see, what kind of questions are we getting so far, if any?
Yeah, there are some, and I was about to interrupt you in the next 2 minutes to just to have a little bit of Q&A, but it's just 3 questions at the moment. So Joe wanted to know, is a model with baked animation like an Alembic supported in some capacity?
To my knowledge, no.
And I also don't see that this would make sense because it's like for texturing here, and animation has to be done somewhere else. Marcus wanted to know, can I add a custom picture for decals and so on?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so let me show you that. I'm going to go to, excuse me, to the setup. That there's a couple different ways to do it. I showed you that paint layer, right? So let me go to a new mix here, excuse me. And I shouldn't have done that. And I'm going to create, let's see, so this will be this color, and then I'm going to create a new solid above it of a different color. But if I wanted to use like a texture, then what we can do is we can use a mask stack. Okay, so we'll get a mask stack in here, and we can choose map. And then here you can load something from the library. You can load a layer map, which is already in this project, or a custom image. And then here you could say add image, and then you can browse to something that you like and add it. Now, it's going to be placed over the whole thing. So if you want to adjust its positioning, then you need to add a projection on top of this, so that we could say, let's do freeform, and we'll put the scale down to 0.2. So now I can like rotate it, or I can slide it around. So this is one way to use a texture. Another way is to do it through a brush. So if I delete that mask stack and add,
I think the question was more related really to decals, like when you have like a little bit of a hole as a texture with an alpha, if you can add that somewhere to the texture.
Yeah, so like here, so there's an opacity for each one of these layers. So I can go in, I can go to this opacity channel, and let's disable that paint mask. And I can load, a texture and image in there. And yeah, I haven't tried that. So I'm going to say that's a really good question. That's something I got to try. There's one of the most important things that I wanted to show you guys is how to get your mix from here into Mixer. So, or excuse me, into Bridge, so that you can send it to Cinema 4D or Unreal with one click. So
that's perfect, because that was another question.
Yeah, so let me open this jar with lid. Save changes? No, do not save changes. And I'm just going to change change some colors here. And it's loading. Down here in the bottom, it said loading textures. Okay. Finally. Okay, so this was a model from Cinema 4D. I wanted it to be antique and grungy anyway. So let's change the color here. So there's the fingerprint color. I want the base color. So let's go up here and is it that? Yeah, it's this guy right here. Okay. All right, so I want to save this so I want to send this to Cinema 4D. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, under export, name this. So I'm going to call it blue jar with lid. I've selected the export location to my Megascans library custom surface directory. And I've enabled create subfolder, which will be named blue jar with lid, and open folder after export. So let's see, I'm going to export at 2048, and here we can choose the channels that we want to export. And what's really cool here for you workflow nerds and pros is that you can you can add your own map, and you can do you can pack these with whichever channels you want. So you can put, like, you know, specular in red and glossiness in green, and whatever. So you can pack your channels, you can choose your formats and depth, and so that's that's really cool. But once you get that all set up, this is for the most part the default, and then you click export. So it is exporting. We'll give that a second to go. Now, once this is exported, I'm going to go to, there we go. So it's really quick, actually. So I'm going to go to Bridge now. And what I need to do in Bridge is I'm going to go down here to the bottom. And, well, actually, I don't even need to go there. I just need to go File and Import Asset. And then I'm going to browse to that folder. So here we go, blue jar with lid. So I'm going to select that folder, and let's see, we'll say Edison, and the type of, this is going to be a 3D asset, not just a surface, so I'm going to say 3D asset. Category is going to be interior. We can start typing in words to find, subcategories, and let's see. And it does automatically find all those textures that were in there. So we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 textures there, and it output 9. So the displacement did not come through because it's an EXR. It did not find it. So I'm just going to grab it there and hit open. And then I need to add at the bottom a mesh file. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to where I saved that mixer export mix, the jar with lid, and open that. And then finally, and then we can queue up a number of them, and then we do import all or import. There's only one, doesn't matter. So I'll click on that, and it is working. Now that is successfully imported. I can now go down here to my imported category, and here it is. The preview is very different, but if we click on it and go to the 3D preview, because I loaded that mesh, it's loading that up, and then I can see that on there. Very cool. And then I can export this to to my Cinema 4D. Let me go to, man, I never got to the landscape. Let's go here, and hello bridge. There you go. Exporting some 4D. Waiting for, there we go, successful. We come back here, and then I actually have the blue one and that white one, which I did yesterday. So let's bring that forward and start the render. And it works the same way in Unreal. If we have a couple minutes, so I think I got just enough time to either answer questions or start up Unreal and send it to Unreal. What would you prefer?
Well, I think the workflow is pretty straightforward. Once you have it in Bridge, it's the very same thing. You just export it and it will automatically show up in Unreal. So I would rather spend the time to answer questions.
Great. Let's do it.
Yeah, one of the questions related to this whole process is, can we take advantage of the maps like curvature and stuff like that? So has this been exported with the whole stuff? I guess yes, because you defined a model, but even without defining the model, would it respect the curvature settings that you did and just bake it to the texture? I would assume so. But...
Yeah, it's actually all baked in.
Yeah,
all of those masks and everything are baked in. But here's a new thing that they just added. If I go to, let's see, let's find an interesting mask here. Okay, so here's a fingerprint. Here's fingerprints. You see down here, custom export channels. We can unfold this, and we can actually let's go finger prints mask. We can export just this mask, as it's fits within this object's UV. And then I can, let's see, so we got, okay, layer mask, prints mask. Stop. Okay, and then we go to export. I did this just the other day, and now I'm totally spacing it. But you can export just masks, which is really great. Where is that? So the answer, if the question was, can you save just the masks to be used in like other programs for blending, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think that's part of the question. Yeah.
Okay. What was the other part that I missed?
The other part was the whole, if it's baked into the texture or not part.
So
yes.
We can actually, it is. And we can preview that. So let's go full size here and let's preview the material. So you can see that this is, this has all of that masking and all of those layers. It's baked in to the texture. But what I was just showing you was that you can export the masks individually. Did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question, are brushes projected in perspective or do they stick to the surface? Martin wanted to know that. From what I saw.
Perspective.
Oh, it's perspective. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is. So, yep. So if we go up to the top, add a solid layer and a paint layer. So I was painting a mask, but you can also paint like color and displacement and reflection and stuff. So like Cinema 4D has body paint, which allows you to, it has a, this is very old tech, it has a multi-brush. So you can paint like bump and color and everything. We can paint like roughness and metalness and albedo here, and the displacement, which is pretty cool. Oh wow, that's way off. Yeah, so I don't do it a lot, and you can see why. But yeah, so let's see. If we go to like this hexagon, and if I get this very dramatic glancing angle, and I'm going to turn off displacement, and let's come in. Let's come in from the bottom. Okay, and let's make it a little bit bigger, and we'll click there. Then it stamps it right down, just like projection painting in body paint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Good.
Next one. Is there a polygon limit for models imported into Mixer?
I do not know what that limit would be.
All right.
It would probably be like anything else, dependent on your machine. But yeah, I guess just check the FAQ to know for sure. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just going through some of the other questions. Is Bridge the only app to export Cinema 4D with Redshift material, or could we go straight from Mixer? Something Jamal wanted to know. I think Bridge is the only way, is it?
I mean, when okay, let me do not save those changes. When I exported that blue jar with lid, I chose the path for all the textures and everything, right?
Right.
Now, there is the short answer is you are not stuck going through Bridge. The benefit of going through Bridge is that you have that Bridge plugin that allows you to export it to whatever you want. If you wanted to, you could manually set up your materials rather than clicking on the export rather than click on the export in Bridge. You can manually set it up. Let's see, is that folder still? Yeah, so here's all of the texture files. So you can bring them into whatever program. But if you want that's one of the features of Bridge, is the plugins and that workflow. So from Bridge, you can go anywhere. Now, that's if you just want one click, it's going to be from Bridge.
Can we create smart materials that can be applied to other objects with different UV maps?
Yeah, and that's supposed to be one of the benefits of smart materials, is that because all of their masking and all their fall-offs are done via the like normal and like box projection, that it can be applied to any model. So let's see, like, yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea with the smart materials. I'm sure there's some exceptions in there, but that's the idea anyway.
Yeah. Another question was, could I do the material, or could I apply the material to another item in Cinema 4D? And I guess the answer is yes, but some of the effects are based on the geometry, like the curvature, right? And if you bake them in,
yeah,
it's not a good idea to use them on another one, but
I think the answer is actually going to be, I'm going to say no, because I would not take. So look, if you create it like on a plane, right? Like this material, which is the one that I created for yesterday's project, which I didn't get to today. You can take this and you can put it on like a sphere. You can put it on anything, but here's the thing: it is, at its heart, it is just like this texture, these textures that you would be mapping onto different geometry and a different UV, which may or may not work depending on that model and its UVs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you're doing like I did with a custom model, and you're exporting those textures, that's for a custom model. It's not going to look good on a plane. Okay, so you're going to want to, yeah.
Another question from Drake. Can you do alpha stems for hard surface detailing as well? I think yes, because I think he wants to know if something like screws or stuff like that are possible, but I don't see a reason why this shouldn't be possible.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, like, so let's see, let's go new mix real quick. And what we can do is add, add a solid layer, and we can add to this add a mask, and we can add like a pattern. So let's say pattern circle. Okay, and they're starting to come through. They're very faint, but we can, we can get a circle. So we'll say like 0 and 1, and offset. Where'd it go? Sorry, let's get a color on there. Okay, there we go. So it's just, it's too big. So we'll say like 2 and 2 and offset 0. And then what I can do is I can like mask out 3 of them, and I can build up one of these, and then I can like scatter it. Or there's a circular transform, which is pretty cool. There's a gradient square checker. There's different patterns and options we have to create different effects.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, another question. Do models have to be UV'd first?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because this is all based on real world surfaces and textures, actually static image maps. That's sort of at the base of the megascans. Is everything is scanned. That's fixed. So yeah, you need UVs.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let me go through another question or some other questions. Is there a polygon selection possible somehow?
No.
No.
If there is, I have not found it.
All right. Yeah, then Jeffrey wanted to know if you're going to fly over using Atlas's particularly the really tight cluttered one. Maybe there is another method besides painstakingly selecting and splitting.
Are you asking for like in Mixer or using them in Cinema 4D?
He said before finishing up Quixel. So, no, in Bridge. He says in Bridge.
Okay, so Bridge is just sort of like a file explorer. What we do with that, we take things from Bridge and we use them in other programs. So I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we have a look at it later
So
again.
What I can do is I can add here. I'll add an atlas here in Mixer. So there's mixed stones. I'm going to add that. And there we go. So that's that's in here, and that's going to, just like any other surface, it's going to be baked in, and it has its own projection and tiling and placement and blending. One thing I didn't get to show you today, which I guess I'm going to start out with tomorrow, is the from above and from below blending to create these like landscape layers. But anyway, yeah.
But I think that already answers the question.
Okay, great. I mean, you just add them like any layer, and you can, tweak them.
All right. So I think we're done with the questions.
Okay.
Again, people loved it a lot, Darren. So there's a lot of fame that you're getting here. People are really enjoying that you're opening up a whole new world of texturing to them, and so am I.
Yeah, thank you, Quixel. Thank you, Quixel, because these are cool. These are cool products. Everything they've put into this, and also Maxon has worked with them on the plugin. So like everyone that's been involved in this, like it's just awesome. They've given us a really cool way to create materials that we would not be able to do otherwise, because no one who can paint like real wood, or I don't know. Some people can. I can't. That's for sure. So
yeah.
Being
Then
able
the
to
other
work
question
with
is
surfaces.
Yeah. The other
Awesome.
question then is how long will it take to do that? So yeah,
right.
It's absolutely cool
Exactly.
to have these tools around because they make life a lot easier as a 3D artist.
Yeah, and fun. I mean, so tomorrow we'll take a look at things like the liquid layer, which is crazy fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So definitely check out tomorrow's webinar. If you didn't register yet, just do it now. We showed the registration page in the beginning. Maybe I can grab the screen back from you, Darren.
Yes, please.
And
please do.
Relief. And
well, I mean, like we're 11 minutes over. I don't want to go too late.
So yeah, here we are on the site, on the Maxon website. You can find this under news and events. And then there is going to be an overview of events, and this is listed as an event. The first one on the top left, and here, in case you didn't sign up already, you can sign up here, pushing this button. This will bring you to the registration. All right. I think we can wrap this up now.
Yeah, so tomorrow, as it says here, the focus, as stated, is converting from Cinema 4D standard physical render to Redshift. And part of the reason of doing that not only is to get more comfortable with Redshift, but also we can take presets from Cinema 4D and use them with all these other, there's a lot of grass presets and plants and a lot of presets in Cinema 4D that would be great to add with our megascans, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely going to be doing that, but I'm also going to show you some of the things that I didn't get to today with the landscape. So that's for tomorrow.
So it's going to be exciting. So yeah, definitely check it out tomorrow. There's a lot of thank yous coming in, so thank you guys for attending. And
Thank you.
yeah,
You're all
we
very
see each
welcome,
other
too.
tomorrow, I guess. All right. So have a good day, a good night, depending on where you are. See you tomorrow.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.